Okay. So, I was just watching Leak Project. Rex Bear, he's really good. He's really smart. I love his content. But, anyways, this is kind of going to be a little shout out to Sovereign because I swear all day yesterday I was looking into the United States Incorporated, right? And I was looking stuff up and the meanings and all this stuff. And I found a guy, Griff. Let's see. Sorry, guys. I'm in a frame of mind there. The reason I say shout out to Sovereign because it seems like here lately we're like on the same page about stuff, which is good. Griff. Check out his channel and um Aaron Abke. But the reason I shout out to Sovereign is because it seems like well, and we don't talk like we're not buddies that sit there and chat back and forth. We're YouTube friends. That's it. And I love the intelligence that's coming out of his channel because I'm on the same wavelength. I'm on the same thought processes. And I got that way, of course, from what happened because when your reality gets shifted in a way that you were told never could be possible, you start to realize that there's a lot of things that are not as they seem. The truth is always right in front of you, but it's just not what you think. Now, the reason I teach a lot about spirituality part of it is because I feel like it's a battle of our souls. Like I read, govern is to control or guide. Ment, men is mind and soul. The government wants to control your mind and soul. Whoever has control of your thoughts has control of your soul. That is why they are pushing the ideologies that they are pushing. And that is why they're pushing the transgender stuff like they are. Because if they can get our kids to be insecure of who they are, then they won't be in touch with their soul or God. You have to be in touch with God. You have to be there. My way of getting to God could be different than yours, and that is absolutely fine. I've learned through my experience not to judge because God raises the ones up that He wants to raise to spread His word, and it can be someone you least expect. So I don't judge. We all have our own path. Um, and I'm not perfect. I'll slip up and maybe make a judgmental statement and take it back. There's a lot of things that I don't want to put out into the aether because whatever you put out there comes back to you. And I feel like this life is about walking back to God. And we're all walking home together, guys. So, that being said, I want to make sure that my tribe that I'm walking with at least has an open mind about what's going on, because it's going to be about survival, and it's going to be about, you know, who you have, what you have in your soul. Better keep that soul, guys. So I've been reading a lot about sun worship or moon worship. That's going to be a different one, but so I won't even bring anything up about that because we're going to go through a whole thing with that. And I want to throw down cards tomorrow for everybody. So I think it'll be a long feed or podcast, but I want to do a general reading for every sign. So check it out. Now, what I'm going to read is States became a foreign corporation in 1871. I looked this up on DuckDuckGo. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, if you go over to Google and you look up United States Incorporated, it will tell you that there is a group of people that are conspiracy theorists that believe in common law, and they are terrorists. If you believe this way, you're considered a terrorist. Now, that takes me back to that insurrection. Not sure how much I believe of that. But what I do know from that is the rights and the laws they tried to take away from us and did take away from us because of that. So now you're a domestic terrorist if you go against what they're trying to push down your throat. That's not good. So when I went to DuckDuckGo and I looked this stuff up, this is what I found. Now, the reason why I'm shouting out to Sovereign is that guy that you had on your channel today. I cannot remember his name right now. Ryan, I think, was his name. The channel I already went and subscribed to. I'll go ahead and put it in the description when I post this video. This is pre-recorded, by the way. He's good. He's real good. And that's why I like Griff, because he's good. He's real good. He pretty much will show you where you can find this stuff. Okay. So here's what it says. Every day, the amount of people learning that the United States of America, the representative, get out of that, nosy. All right. My dog, she's going to steal everything. She wants to be involved. Okay, the representative republic it was died when the southern states abandoned Congress forever in 1861 is increasing, along with the pain of finding that you've been steeped into lies throughout your entire life. Your entire education, there's still plenty more to cry about as you start putting the pieces together seriously. After this article, you'll feel the temptation to learn even more, to go slap your kids' teachers and professors around until they promise to make some kind of change or resign. Trust me, if you're sending your kids to public school today, you're not doing them any good. And I've said this for a while. I'm glad I'm homeschooling because I can actually teach the kids. Like when we talk about Christopher Columbus, oh, discovering America. No, he found land that was already discovered and he slaughtered people and took it over. There were black people already here in America. There was already civilizations. They just didn't live the way he did, you know. In fact, in somewhere in Ohio, at Chillicothe, not Chillicothe, one of those, Cincinnati, there's a museum there, and they have a journal or a diary from a prominent black family. I mean, and it was in the 1700s, So these these stories we learn in school are stories. Sorry for the harsh words, but when we find out that the schools are really indoctrinating our kids to be slaves, and stupid ones at that, yet we do it anyway, it's time to rethink our philosophy. When we fail to plan, we plan to fail. How we can say our kids have great teachers while they're teaching them bullshit and lies. That's what we think when we don't know the truth either. Ouch. Today's teachers are shoveling propaganda during an age of information with the real facts, thumbing them in the eyes. There are no excuses, and there's no reason to hear any. If it comes from public schools, public agencies, public media, or public servants, it's a stinking lie. Even the term public means private if it's not connected to the United States. USA is a private, foreign, bankrupt corporation in City of London, and we wonder why the courts and cops and banks are such despicable, inhumane pirates. They're holding you as collateral, which is cattle, collateral, cattle, for the debt that they're growing. They're growing the debt. They're they're bringing incomes in of 180,000 a year, and we sit and gripe about who was voted in when our vote didn't even count anyways. That's why when someone kept shoving it in my face, oh, you got to vote to make a difference, you got to vote to make a difference. I don't want to vote anymore. I quit voting 2 years ago, and I don't want to vote again because it doesn't matter. It doesn't count. It's all fake, anyways. So, this is what your kids are going to grow up to, and you're helping them do it. Then, by passing the act in 1871, Congress formed a corporation known as the United States. This corporation, owned by foreign interests, shoved the organic version of the Constitution aside by changing the word for to of in the title. The original Constitution drafted by the Founding Fathers read, "The Constitution for the United States of America." And it was in lowercase letters. Anything in all uppercase is slave material. The Constitution for the United States of America. Note that neither the words United or States begin with capital letters, but the Constitution of the United States of America is a corporate constitution. It's all capital, which is absolutely not the same document you think it is. First of all, it ended all of our rights of sovereignty. So you now have the how the international bankers got their hands on the United States of America. As an instrument of the international bankers, the United States owns you from birth to death. It also holds ownership of all your assets, of your property, even your children. Think long and hard about all the bills, taxes, fines, and license you have paid for or purchased. Yes, they had you by the pockets. If you don't believe it, read the 14th Amendment. I'm going to read the 14th Amendment to you guys. See how free you really are. Ignorance of the facts led to your silence. Silence is constructed or construed as consent. Consent to the beneficiaries of a debt you did not incur. As a sovereign people, we have been deceived for hundreds of years. We think we are free, but the truth is we are servants of the corporation. And this is true. I realized this when Derek showed me. He showed me, he said, Krista, this is a game. You play, this is a meat suit you're playing from up here. Nobody is free. He said, you got to relearn everything you were ever taught. I thought, he was the second person that crossed over that told me that. My first husband, Mike, when he killed himself, did the same thing. He said, Christy, you got to relearn everything. It's not what you think. He was in the military and he knew the truth about Iraq. That's a whole nother podcast. They're the ones who own the IRS, so wake up. The United States is the Vatican. They're the Jesuits, the Zionists, all rolled into one big rat's nest. They're the ones running the Pentagon. I've always felt that way about the Vatican. And I grew up Catholic, but I'm not Catholic anymore. I'm not a religion, I'm spiritual. Big difference. Religion is another corporation. Everything that preacher tells you, he has to get approved through government standards. So if it's not full of a bunch of lies, they can't preach it to you. It has to go and coincide with you being a servant, with you looking outside yourself. If you're an insecure person and you need somebody else to guide you and teach you and tell you and help you, you're lost. Because all the answers to everything is in here, right in your heart. You open that heart chakra up and you clear your mind and you connect to source and you have all the answers to everything. I swear. I got geometry. I got geometry in the middle of the night and it was a symbol of transmutation. All because I was meditating 3 times a day and downloading from God. So, they're the ones running the Pentagon, murdering everyone. They're not about God. They work for Satan. They have been pumping your heads full of septic stew, and they're getting you to foot the bill. They're the ones who own the IRS. Wake up. So it says the 4th of July has come and gone, and Americans honored the holiday with a renewed patriotic fervor. That reminded me of the bicentennial celebrations of 1976. As it is customary, traditional fireworks display took center stage, and scores of people turned out to witness the dazzling show in the summer sky. With mixed feelings, I sat with friends on a crowded Pennsylvania sidewalk. Beneath a glittering, mesmerizing explosion of color, pondering the keen sense of sadness and the betrayal that overwhelmed my spirit. That's because this girl that's writing this, Jillian, she knows the truth. We celebrate this day with honor and independence. We call ourselves free people in a land of liberty. We're not. We're not free at all. This is a myth perpetrated by the powers that be in order to avoid any major civil unrest and to keep us all living under the thumb of a materialistic corporate big brother within the illusions that have been created for us. The truth of the matter is this. What freedom has not what freedom has not been stolen from us, we have surrendered willingly through our silence and ignorance. As Americans, most of us have no idea how our freedoms are maintained or lost. Apparently, our ancestors didn't have a grasp on this either. So it goes down and it tells you the date is February 21st, 1871, and the 41st Congress is in session. I refer to you the Acts of the 41st Congress, Section 34, Session 3, Chapter 61 and 62. On this date in the history of our nation, Congress passed an act to provide a government for the District of Columbia. This is also known as the Act of 1871. What does this mean? Well, it means that Congress, under no constitutional authority to do so, created a separate form of government for the District of Columbia, which is a 10-mile square parcel of land. What? How could they do that? Moreover, why would they do that? To explain, let's look at the circumstances of those days. The Act of 1871 was passed at a vulnerable time in America. Our nation was essentially bankrupt, weakened, and financially depleted in the aftermath of Civil War. There is proof of a second government, of another, like we talk about there being two governments. One is a smokescreen. That's why you get all the circus and bread and circus. And the other is the one that's ruling behind the scenes. So we were weak and financially depleted in the aftermath of Civil War. So it was a strategic maneuver by the European interests, the international bankers, who were intent upon gaining stronghold on the neck and the coffers of America. The Congress realized our country was in dire straits, so they cut a deal with the international bankers. In those days, the Rothschilds of London were dipping their fingers into everyone's pie. And this is true. If you go back and you read and you follow the money of the Rothschilds, they are the ones that they've had their hands in everything. There has been some sort of collateral or some string attached which puts you and me, the borrower, into subservient position. This was true back in 1871 as well. The convening international bankers were not about to lend our floundering nation any money without some serious stipulations. They devised a brilliant way of getting their foot in the door of the United States, a prize they had coveted for some time, but had been unable to grasp, thanks to our founding fathers who despised them and held them in check, and thus the Act of 1871 was passed. In essence, this act formed the corporation known as the United States of America, all capitalization. It's important because the corporation owned by foreign interests moved right in and shoved the original organic version of the Constitution in a dusty corner. The altered version reads the Constitution of the United States of America. It is the corporate constitution. It's not the same document you might think. So, the new altered constitution serves as the constitution of the corporation and not that of America. Think about that for a moment. Incidentally, the corporate constitution does not benefit the republic. It serves only to benefit the corporation. It does nothing for the good of me or you, and it operates outside the original constitution. Now we know why they are absolute tyrants and just keep going full speed ahead that way, right? Now we know. So they turned our rights into privilege, which we must be licensed to engage in. So Congress committed treason against the people who were considered sovereign under the Declaration of Independence and the Organic Constitution. When we consider the word sovereign, we must think about what the word means. So, according to Webster's dictionary, it is defined as the chief or the highest supreme, supreme in power, superior in position to all others, independent of, and unlimited by any other, possessing or entitled to original and independent authority of jurisdiction. Free, free to govern ourselves, supposedly, but not anymore. So, in other words, our government was created by and for sovereigns, the free citizens who were deemed the highest authority. Only the people can be sovereign. Remember that. Government cannot be sovereign. We can also look at the Declaration of Independence, where we read government is subject to the consent of the governed. That's supposed to be us, the sovereigns. I don't feel like a sovereign nowadays. It doesn't take a rocket scientist or any constitutional historian to figure out that this is not what is happening in our country today. And it's not. Government in these times is not subject to consent of the governed. Rather, the governed are subject to whim and greed of the corporation, which has been stretched its tentacles beyond the 10-mile square parcel of land known as the District of Columbia and crouching into every state of the Republic. Mind you, the corporation has no jurisdiction outside of the District of Columbia. They just want you to think it does. So you see, you are presumed to know the law. This is ironic because as people, we're taught basically nothing about the law in school. We're taught a bunch of crap. We're made to obscure factoids and paragraphs here and there, such as the preamble, as they gloss over the Bill of Rights. But we are not taught about the law, nor do our corporate government schools delve into the Constitution in any great depth. After all, they were put into place to indoctrinate and dumb down the masses. This is true. I've said this forever. I don't have that hater anymore that was on my, following me, that was always saying, I hate it when you say that we're down. Did you know any of this until we started talking about it? I didn't. I knew in my heart and here that we weren't free. And I knew in my heart and here that something wasn't right. And so I learned basic things that they have taken away. But I didn't know this like I do now. And I'm still researching it. So, when you hear some individuals say that the Constitution is null and void, think about how our government has transformed over time from a municipal or service oriented entity to a corporate or profit oriented entity. We are living under the myth that this is lawful, but it is not. We are being ruled by a de facto or unlawful form of government, the corporate body of the death mongers, the controllers. So, anyways, this article, it goes on. This girl has a lot of stuff in here, a lot of stuff. Like, okay, she even talks about the maritime law, which is what I looked up yesterday. I looked up how that we kind of live under maritime law. And when you walk through the doors of the, when you go in the courtroom and then there's the seats and then they have the doors that go like this, that's a symbol. That's the floodgates. So they open and you cross over, you're in water, you're in maritime law. You're not on land anymore. So it says the Republic took it into the chin to the point of a knockdown. With the surrender of their gold in 1933, the people essentially surrendered their law. I don't suppose you were taught that in school either. That because our real history is hidden from us. This is the way Roman civil law works. Our form of governance today is based upon Roman civil law and Admiralty Maritime Law, better known as the divine right of kings, the law of the seas. That explains a lot. So, anyways, guys, if you want to find out good stuff, if you want to read further into this, Sovereign Soul Unchained Mind has been talking a lot about this. Griff talks a lot about it. Aaron Abke, he does the spiritual spin on this, which is what I like. So a lot of people are jumping into this. And the new guy that was on Sovereign Soul Chain will oh, this is another before I go. U.S. Code Title 28302 Definitions 15. United States means a federal corporation, an agency, department, a commission, board, another entity of the United States, or an instrumentally of the United States. Instrumentality. So Lisa Gillian is the one that wrote this article. It's great. I'm not going to read any more of it. It's long, but it does explain a lot. And I'm glad I found that article because that allowed me to deliver the information to you. So, guys, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to record another video about the moon phase. And I also thought about, which I'm always thinking of things I can do on the channel. But if you all could give me some feedback, like, share, and subscribe, tell me some things you may be interested in. I can maybe, I was thinking about reading the book of Lilith, a little bit of it. There's some cool stuff. I read stuff all the time. So there's some cool stuff we can get into. But I'm going to get off here and I definitely will get that card session out. Okay. We're going to really do it. I'm going to read everybody's sign for the new year. So be the reason someone believes in good people. All right. You have a good day.